Welcome to the Trauma Therapist Podcast. My name is Guy McPherson. I interview incredible people who've dedicated their lives to helping those who've been impacted by trauma. A big thank you to our sponsors and our guests who are supporting this show. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, folks, welcome back to the podcast. Very excited to have as my guest today, Alanna Bell. Alanna, welcome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Alanna is a licensed professional counselor and the founder of Aspen Heart Hypnotherapy and Integrative Counseling, where she specializes in trauma-informed therapy and heart-centered hypnotherapy. She holds master's degrees in professional counseling and school counseling and has extensive experience supporting adolescents, adults, and families dealing with trauma, anxiety, addiction, and more. Alanna integrates approaches such as EMDR, DBT, mindfulness, cognitive behavioral therapy, and motivational interviewing to help clients move toward healing and emotional resilience. Her work focuses on creating a compassionate, empowering space where people can reconnect with themselves and build lasting change. All right, Alanna, just a little bit about you, but before we get going, share with the listeners where you're from originally and where you are right now.
All right. Well, originally I grew up in California, came from Bakersfield, moved to the coast, lived there. But actually, we've been in Colorado now for about 32 years. So we
Wow.
consider ourselves natives here.
Okay.
All of my counseling practices have been done here in Colorado. Um, and yeah, it's been quite a journey. I mean, I feel like I've lived long enough to have several lives in this lifetime. I started my career by being a full-time mom and raising my three amazing now adults who are contributing to society well. So, first job, I think, well done. But then I went into school counseling, and as you already said, the resume is long, but mostly it's just been a journey of exploring different branches of therapy, different ways of helping people.
All right,
Really,
hang on. You're getting ahead of me.
okay.
I want to set the tone here, and I just want to ask the question: how did it start? You said it started as your mom, but what was the impetus? What was the inspiration for you?
Uh, I think innate wanting to help people was one of them. Um, when we were younger, we were very involved in the church, and I originally got into counseling because there was a biblical counseling program, which was amazing actually, because it was not your traditional Bible thumping thing. It was, really understand the Christ centered approach of coming alongside, meeting people where they are. And I went on to be the licensed professional counselor, not just faith based. But I think spirituality, whatever your spirituality background is an important part of healing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I've always been drawn to children, just a natural ability there. My mom was also a master in child care. She actually was a state consultant for California in early childhood development. So children is a part of the story. So my first 13 years in counseling was as a school counselor in the elementary and middle schools, and I loved it.
So, hang on. So, when you got into college, did you
hmm
say I wanted to be a counselor? Was that your track?
Well, so here's the trick is I only went to 1 year of college before I ended up married with children.
Okay. So,
So
you
when I
1 year.
Right. When I
Okay.
went back as a reentry woman, I had a whole lot more life under my belt.
How long? How many years had expired?
Well, I tell people it took me 18 years to get my bachelor's. You
That's
know?
exactly the gap I had. 18
Yeah,
years.
yeah, 18 years to get my bachelor's. It moved fast after that, only took me 2 years to get my master's. So I, but I learned things. I took classes along the way. And honestly, when I did a thesis for my bachelor's, which was in organizational management, not even therapy, I did it on adolescent suicide. And that did it for me. It's like this is where I want to be. I need to help when young people lose hope for life. No, I
Okay,
want to get in
pause a
there.
second.
Uh-huh.
So at that point, you're doing a thesis. It's in the field of, would you say, organizational?
Uh-huh. Human resources, organizational
Okay,
management.
why did you get it? Why was it that a choice for
I
you?
I heard a news report and it just hurt my heart. And then that triggered something in me on how do we help people? And
Okay, and at this time, you're married, you've
yeah,
got kids,
yeah,
you start writing this thesis, which is a very obviously intense topic.
right.
What was it that moved you to that topic? You heard something, you said?
Yeah, no, I heard a news report and I found myself weeping for a kid I didn't even know.
Yeah.
And it was like, there's a problem here.
Okay.
And, we all have our stories. I had a struggling adolescence myself, and, so I could identify, and I felt it was a calling.
Well, to the degree that you feel like you can share, what was your childhood like?
Oh, I mean, it wasn't tragic or anything. I was the middle child, the lost child. My dad was an alcoholic, but not abusive, just very critical. I just was an awkward kid. And so I had difficulty making friends in early years and, I felt it.
Hmm. So you start doing research for this thesis. What did you start finding out? What did you start discovering? What was that process like for you?
I think I started seeing how we miss connecting with people, and adolescents are some of the hardest people to connect with, right? And yet, even the adults there are so many adults that still operate from that wounded adolescent, right? Or that wounded child. And so part of my work, and now most of my work is put into my books. And so really trying to speak to, trying to see, trying to meet the the people where they're struggling, where they're needing to be heard, needing to be sought after. And I've always gone for the underdogs. And one might say anyone who's in therapy is an underdog. But I mean, when I worked in the elementary school, it was at a Title I school. It was the, transient population, the neighborhood that the police referred to as Little Beirut. I worked in the uh, residential treatment center for adolescent teenage girls who couldn't fit in society. So they had to live somewhere else. And so, and then now my recent book is on addiction with helping professionals, the unseen population there, where, oh, we can't go get help. We can't say we need help because we're the ones holding it together. We're the ones everybody else sends people to. We're not supposed to have problems. So I guess I've always had an ability, and again, maybe my own woundedness as a kid and then doing my own therapy and work. I notice that there are segments of society that just aren't seen. They don't want to be seen. People don't want to know that exists.
Mm.
They don't want to deal with the troubled adolescent. They're annoying. They don't know how to talk to them. And the adolescent doesn't say, hey, talk to me. I'm ready to listen. They are in your face. Or then you take the other end of the spectrum, the professionals who act like everything is fine. We have to. We have to appear professional. We have to appear like we're holding everything together. And so we suffer in silence.
We're going to get to the book. Just before we do, just state the name of the book for our listeners.
The road I never meant to take.
Okay, real stories, real science, real recovery.
Right.
We're gonna get to this, but
Okay.
kind of want to frame this,
Sure.
Alana. So you're struck by this suicide of this kid you've never met. You come out of that. How does your career unfold in terms of your education, what you want to do, your focus?
Um, Well, so it wasn't the easy road. Again, I didn't just go in after high school and be able to be a full-time college student. I was working full-time. It's kind of cute how I look back on it. I'd never have the energy now, but I mean, I was managing Starbucks and Barnes and Noble, which was like one of the best jobs ever. But working
Which
full-time,
one? Which one was the best?
working as managing Starbucks in a Barnes and Noble in a
Oh,
bookstore.
Inner
It
Barnes and
definitely
Noble.
gets
Yeah, yeah,
better
yeah.
than that. I do not. But I would work like from Sunday at noon until noon on Friday. Then I would get in the car. My courses were 5 hours away in Colorado Springs. So I would drive
Whoa.
there. I would do my Friday evening class, my Saturday afternoon class, drive home first thing Sunday morning and go to work at noon.
Oh my gosh.
And my kids, who are now teens, were awesome. They would come hang out at the bookstore, do their homework in the cafe there. And, I mean, it worked. I'm glad I didn't have to do that for more than 2 years. But that's how passionate I was about what I was learning and I wanted a job that was going to give back. I didn't want a job that was just a job. I come from teachers, both my parents were teachers. I come from, I don't know if you want to say, that cloth that is just compassionate. Again, I think the fact that I struggled as a kid, that I was not treated kindly, had the bullying, had the depressed times. And so I think that causes us to be more empathetic.
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely is some of the ingredients in the soup
Yeah.
and can affect us in different ways. So, talk about how trauma became on your radar. Obviously, you touched upon the suicide thesis on suicidality. How did that topic theme kind of blossom for you in interest?
Yeah, that's actually a really powerful question because I don't have like a clear answer. All I know is I kept being drawn to it. I think I wanted, like, as I was doing therapy, I wanted to be able to bring a deeper healing. And I always felt like people were just only able to talk about the surface, and I could feel that something was deeper under here. So, like, I went to EMDR training way back before it was cool, right?
Mm-hmm.
Before the military said it's the number one research based, whatever. I just thought, oh, this is powerful. And when I started practicing with it, it was like, yeah, I can really get to the deeper root of things here because they're out of their ego mind. They're actually able to get to that deeper subconscious.
Let me interject for 1 second. So
Sure.
you said when you started doing therapy, you sensed there was something beneath that. How did you know that? Tell us.
Well, I mean, your first symptom is that they're not really getting better, right? You can give them all the skills, but they're not healed. They're still in therapy 10 years later,
Mm,
It's like, so as I learned, and I'm just a forever learner, right? Always reading, always looking for, I don't know, new ahas. Um, and so when I learned about the EMDR and studied more in the subconscious mind, that felt really powerful and true. And then practicing on my clients, it seemed to be really good. And then when hypnotherapy came as an option, and again, just an online, I read about it and, oh, I want to learn that. And then I learned how you can get deeper. It works similarly to EMDR in taking you to the subconscious mind, but it's a lot faster process because you're bypassing all of the other things. And what I really saw was transformational change with these other modalities. When you're working in the subconscious, when you can regress them back to the childhood wound and you can in some ways rewrite the story, right? They get to be the loving mother that they never had. They get to say to themselves what they needed to hear. And it kind of actually, neuroscience will say, suggests new neural pathways.
All right. Let me just remind everyone I'm speaking with Alanna J. Bell. We are talking about her book. It is called The Road I Never Meant to Take: Real Stories, Real Science, Real Recovery. When did you say to yourself, I'm going to write this book? I need to write this book.
Um, After my own recovery, after everything got so bad that I couldn't be in denial anymore, and it was one of those throw all the cards in the air, let them land what they may, because I can't keep doing this.
Okay,
So,
hang on. We're missing. When did this happen?
so perfect storm, 2020, COVID. My mom also had a fall, broke her hip, punctured her lungs, ended up coming and living with us. My drinking at this point it had already gotten to a point that it was bad, but it was manageable, right? I mean, I
So
didn't.
during all of this, everything we were talking about, you were drinking at this time.
Oh, no, no. Thank you
Okay.
for clarifying that.
Yeah.
No, I was a late starting drinker. I didn't drink
Okay.
at all raising the kids. I didn't drink until the last decade, I would say, before I got home. And it was just a progression. It wasn't like I always drank bad. I think that it got it grew from we had a grandson who died traumatically at age
Oh my
5.
God.
It was a debilitating disease, so we watched him die for 5 years. And then my daughter was
Mm.
diagnosed with cancer a few months after that. You know how those progression things happen. And so those are all excuses, but they were very real pressures. And so drinking just kind of grew, because that's what happens for some of us with that biological makeup, and trauma and all the other ingredients, right? It's not one ingredient. Um, but after COVID and all the extra stressors, all the full time caregiving, full time clients in crisis, my own crisis, um, after a couple years of that, that was when it was like, I can't do this anymore. And it's kind of like I either kill myself or I go to treatment.
Whoa. Okay. How is your daughter?
She's in remission. Thank you for asking.
Okay. Wow. That's awesome to hear.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a lot, Alana.
Yeah.
Were you married at the time?
Yeah, yeah, no, and I'm still
Okay.
married.
Okay. So a lot's going on.
Mm.
At what point did you start to get help for your alcoholism?
Well, so there's a lot of ways I tried, right? I tried, um, did my own counsel, went to therapy, went to those kinds of things. I tried going to AA a couple of times, but that's really tricky as a therapist because I ran into my clients on a couple of occasions. It would be one thing to go to an AA meeting when you have 7 years under your belt, but when you're getting your 24-hour chip, not really cool. And of course, I wouldn't be able to share anything for ethics
Mm-hmm.
and all of that. So that didn't really work. Um, and even admitting that you have a problem puts you at risk of losing your licensure and all of that. So it was very tricky. I did finally go into inpatient treatment for 30 days, and that was fantastic, because getting away from everything for 30 days. And I was very fortunate to land in an incredible center that did a great job of working with mind, body, spirit, great staff of doctors, nurses, but also counselors. And so that it was cool to come out of that, again, being a forever learner. I'm saying, oh, what was it about that program that worked? Because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of programs don't work. And it was, what is it about that program that worked? And then also, again, seeing the population that is often missed, it's like, okay, I know I'm not the only professional who struggles. I know that. But what I also learned is that people in the mental health field, if they have a substance use disorder and addiction, they are more likely to kill themselves than to get help because of the
Whoa.
shame, because of the, I shouldn't say more likely, I don't know exact statistics. I do know that 7% of everyone in the field reports being burnt out, being,
That
and
seems really low.
right, well, and underreporting is huge, right? But the
Right.
same statistics, 1 in 6 people have a substance use disorder
Yeah.
across ethnicities, professions, and that includes helping professions.
Of course.
Probably helping professions, frontliners are higher,
Yeah.
but we're not going to report that because there's too
Right.
much risk involved.
Right. All right. So thank you for sharing that. When did you decide to write the book?
Um, it's interesting because it wasn't one of those like, oh, I'm going to write a book. It's like, oh my God, I don't want to write a book. I want anybody to know this is my story. It's like I'm proud of myself for going through the treatment, becoming sober. But let's just keep it quiet. But I really felt a calling again. It's not like I hear a voice from heaven, but you know how you have that stirring, and it's like, I really want people to be aware this is a huge problem. It really is a huge problem for people in the helping professions. They don't know how to get help, and people don't even know if you're not in it. You don't even know the problem exists because we present so well.
Let me tell you something. Like I said, I really appreciate you sharing your story. You come on here, and all we do is talk about the book. That's very boring. You come on here and you sharing your story. People listening to this, Alana, are not only going to be inspired, but they're going to be pr- compelled to
Hmm.
seek out help themselves.
I
That's
hope.
what this is about. That's what this is about. So, talk more about the book. What did you want to say in the book?
It's fun. The book developed well. I wanted to be able to encourage people. I wanted to give them the scientific background. It was so refreshing for me when I went to rehab and learned that there's a biological component to this, that I didn't just have some sort of weak will or bad gene, that made me an alcoholic. It's like, no, there's a biological sequence. And yeah, and so I wanted the book to address the the body, mind, the spirit, right? I have all of these skills from my years of therapy. I wanted to put those into everyday language for people reading, whether it's a therapist or whether it's a person off the street. I want them to learn some skills, but it's all written in letter form. So it's written like from one therapist who has an addiction but is in recovery to another therapist who also has alcoholism but
Hmm.
hasn't yet got help. And through the letters, it's sharing scientific information neurologically. Part of my treatment was I got neurostimulation and neurofeedback because one of my daughters, is a doctor of mind and body medicine and had her own clinic at the time. And so, knowing how that impacted my healing, get that information out there, and then also help people connect with spirit. Now, I'm not talking religion. I'm talking be out in nature and
Hmm.
notice the sunsets and take time with the animals, and because all of that goes together in healing, written from one therapist, written from one person to another person. My story is told in such a way that it's not just a biology. It's
Hmm.
written kind of as a novel, even though it's all aspects of my own journey.
Is the book for anyone going through recovery, or is it geared more towards quote unquote professionals or mental health professionals?
It's So its target audience is anybody in the helping professions who
Okay.
doesn't really have, they don't know what to do, right? For years, I didn't know what to do. I knew it was
When you
becoming
say you didn't know what to do, does that mean you were almost like shackled because of your professional obligation or
very much,
profession?
very much
Yeah.
so.
I can't tell anyone this.
Well, exactly. And I would tell some of my close friends, but
Sure.
they would say, who are also therapists, and they'd say, "Oh, you don't drink that much." Because I never made a scene. I wasn't out driving. I wasn't in the bars. I was a closet drinker,
Hmm.
so I never looked bad to people. And it's like, "Oh, you don't have a problem," even though I couldn't go a day without it, or I didn't want to. Anyway, yeah, I think that there's a big fear of I can't admit I have a problem because that means I'm a failure. As a therapist, I'm supposed to have all of the answers, the skills,
Right.
the know-how, and certainly I'm supposed to have my stuff together, right? I'm not
Yeah.
supposed to have those kind of problems.
So what do you say in addition to that? What do you say to our listeners who are identifying with this? Who are like, yeah, it might not even be alcoholism. It could be an addiction to something else as well.
Right.
What would you
Exactly.
say to them?
First thing I would say is they're not alone. You're not alone. There is help. I did have to report to the boards that I got the help, but I still have my license. I still am practicing. And if anything, I feel like the board got a wake up call when I shared my experience because at one point I had even gone to the board saying, how can you help me? I've got a problem here. And all they could say is, we don't really have anything. It's just up to you to get help
Oh, wow.
and
Okay.
then report it.
And then
So,
report it.
yeah. And so,
So that is something that has to be reported.
oh, yeah.
What if you
And you
what
have,
specifically do you have to report? That you have an addiction or that you what?
you are supposed to report you have an addiction, and then you're supposed to report the treatment that you got. Um, I didn't know that, to be quite honest, and I didn't report it until after I had gotten my treatment, which was helpful because they took those by the time it all came out. I had been sober 2 years, so I didn't have a delay in my license, but no, it's not a kind process. I'll just be honest. It's not a kind process. But what I would want my listeners to hear is that there is help, there is support. Um, it isn't comfortable, but having sobriety is so worth it. Um, and I didn't lose anything, I
Hmm.
only gained in the long run. And it wasn't a long, long run. I mean, you feel the benefits of sobriety immediately. And then the rest of the walk is, I'm not going to say it's comfortable, but it's not less comfortable than drinking and hiding it and having that shame and feeling sick every day.
Wow. All right, Alana. Um, Share again with our listeners the name of the book and the best place for people to learn more about you and the book.
All right. Book is The Road I Never Meant to Take. That's probably backwards, isn't it? Uh,
No, it was perfect
Oh,
actually.
okay. All
Yeah.
right. So yeah, The Road I Never Meant to Take. Um,
Okay.
and it's available Barnes& and Noble, Amazon, all of that good stuff. And I have a website, alannabellwrites.com. And on there, I also have blogs that are helpful. I would love to hear from you. So if you would like to reach out, you can do so through that website as well. And it's my name, Alanna Bell, Bell, Writes, WRITES.com.
Okay. We'll have all that linked up at the show notes page at the traumatherapistpodcast.com.
Wonderful.
Alana, awesome. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thanks for
You're
having me.
welcome. All right. Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye bye.